we had the big bombshell report that came out yesterday. Shout out to Aditi Kikwabala, the ESPN, or excuse me, the NFL Network beat writer for the Steelers and the Browns. She had put a report out yesterday where she basically said that it's a done deal. Mr. Rooney says that Ben will be the quarterback in 2021. Everything is satisfied, and that's that. So that was the initial tweet. And obviously, you know, everybody went crazy. Some people went nuts in terms of like, we're upset about it because we already talked about how some people want him back. Some people don't want him back, but we saw how that reacted. Everybody reacted to it. And obviously it dominated the headlines for a couple of hours, right? And then later on, she comes back and then she starts to reel us on back. And she's like, well, the deal isn't done just yet. They still got to negotiate the contract, but everything looks good. So from there, we go back to the emotional roller coaster of, man, I thought the deal was done. I thought everything was good. It was signed, sealed, delivered. Now you're basically telling me that we're right back to where we were. Just Mr. Rooney said it this time versus Kevin Colbert versus Mike Tomlin. Yeah, it kind of threw me off. It definitely threw me off a little bit, but I need to hear from you first because I know this is your guy. You know what I mean? This is your situation. I saw the TikTok. The TikTok looked good with the jersey on. And shout out to the form too, baby.
I was juiced up, man.
I see.
The swing needs some work, but I was actually pretty happy with where it was. First couple swings of the year, for sure.
Shout out to the flip-flops and the socks too. You look good.
Thanks, dude. I was juiced up. It was actually the first day that it was like nice out. I don't know what it was, 50, 60 degrees. And
it's
one of my goals has to do with golf.
Right?
So I was like, bro, I got to get out there. I got to hit some bombs. I'm a little juiced up about the Big Ben news. So I just thought it would be the perfect collab. A little bit of golf, a little bit of football, a little bit of Big Ben news all together.
I like the crossover. I was with it. You got a like for me. Like, let's go.
I appreciate it. Yeah, obviously, that was a great night. One, because I think that just happened right before the Penguins game. And the Penguins ended up winning. But, I was ecstatic.
Another overtime Pens win as well, right?
Yeah, I was ecstatic because the initial report did come from Aditi, correct?
Yeah,
Ian
correct.
Rappaport then, I believe, just copy and pasted what she said, and he reported it. So we had two really good sources. I'm like, okay, done deal. It's over. So it's done. Yeah. Yeah, I was so amped up, dude. And I still feel that way. I don't know how you feel. I don't know why she would come back and maybe say that, but in my heart of hearts, with Ben's agent going out and whatever note he wrote or whatever message he sent to those reporters, him going out of his way to say that, and then also Art Rooney, the owner.
Yeah, he said that Ben and Mr. Rooney had the meeting and it went well, and he kind of just left it at that. Yeah.
And then for Art Rooney to say what he said, I feel like it's going to happen. Now, obviously, the contract isn't done yet, but it feels like everything's in a way better direction or pointing towards Ben coming back. And in my opinion, I'm saying done deal because I heard the initial report. I'm just going to ignore everything that's said afterwards. So I think it's pretty much locked up in my heart of hearts.
So this was my thing. I said to myself, what was said that was so different with Mr. Rooney than Kevin Colbert? They both said the exact same thing in terms of, we want Ben back, but we got to look at the contract. So for me, I literally, as I looked back and dove into it a lot more, I'm just saying to myself, how was that tweet and that information any different than what we had prior to that tweet coming out? We already knew that, yes, the Steelers would like to have him back. We've both said that as the roster stands right now, Ben gives this team the best chance to win. We said that over Mason, over Dwayne Haskins. The biggest issue is what, though? The $41 million cap hit. And how do you adjust that number without disrespecting Ben on a, per year salary standpoint as well? That hasn't changed yet. So to me, I was just like, I get the excitement because Mr. Rooney said that, we want Ben back, but he still said the exact same thing. We got to find the contract. That's what we got to talk about. And I was a little bit frustrated because to me, I'm just like, well, what have y'all been talking about? Clearly y'all talked the first time. No contract details were negotiated. Then it was just a mutual interest thing, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. Then Kevin Colbert comes out and says it. Y'all still haven't talked. Okay, cool. Now Mr. Rooney comes out and says the exact same thing. But even he said, yeah, we haven't gotten to the particulars of the contract, but we let him know we want him back. He said he wants to come back. Isn't that what we already knew after the wild card game? That to me was the biggest thing. I'm just like, I get the excitement around it because it was Mr. Rooney, but it still doesn't change the fact that we aren't anywhere closer to a decision being made because we haven't got the contract worked out just yet. So that's still going to be the sticking point. That's the major sticking point from my perspective. But what I will say this is, I did want to shout out Mr. Rooney because I thought he read the room. I thought it was important what he did. Now, granted, I don't think it changes anything in terms of deal getting done or not getting done. But what he did do was this. Prior to him coming out and speaking that second time, what happened? We said, man, the media really ran with Kevin Colbert's comments. And we knew, regardless of what Kevin Colbert said, that, you know, the media was going to have a field day with it, whether he was positive about Ben or negative about Ben. He decided to play it close to the vest, so people took it as negative. Then from there, you could just see how, okay, Ben hasn't spoken to those guys directly since, I guess, you know, the January meeting that they had right after the game. So from a negotiation standpoint, it's a lot easy. I mean, it's easy to happen when we're not talking directly, but the media is taking different things that we might have said, and now they're creating a narrative. So if I'm Ben doing this, you know, past week, I might be saying, well, I'm not as open to taking a pay cut anymore because y'all haven't shown that y'all really want me. Y'all haven't stood up for me in the face of the media when everybody is kind of getting at me about my contract and about my play. I just want the organization to back me. And for him, if he wasn't hearing that, that could have changed his mentality in terms of his eagerness to come back. But when you get Mr. Rooney saying, well, you know what? Let's nip that in the bud. Let's clear the elephant in the room and let everyone know that we do want him back. I think that was the part that Mr. Rooney was very smart in doing, because now you get Ben and he's going to be a lot more open to these tougher conversations, because the root of it is Ben is the one that's going to be taking the loss here, right? He's the one who has to give up something to help the team out. It's not the other way around. Technically, Ben is under contract. So the team is the one who has to, you know, try to figure out how can we persuade him to make him want to come back, but at the same time at a very, very discounted rate. And that's why for Ben, he's like, yo, make me feel like I'm doing something for y'all. Make me feel like what I'm doing isn't in vain either. So that's why I think what Mr. Rooney said in terms of, hey, we want Ben to come back and compete for this championship. Yes, we want Ben to come back. I think all of those things were right by him to say that, because we know the next conversation that they're going to have is going to be a lot tougher than that one right there.
Sure. And I think that was one of the big differences too, because all these conversations over the past couple of weeks with Colbert's press conference was very toeing the line in the middle of not really playing your hand at all. And this was the difference, saying we want Ben back, especially it being Art Rooney, the owner. Now, I will say this too on Ben's side, because we haven't really heard too much from him after, I believe it was after the wild card game, right? He had like a press conference or two saying like, I want to be back. I want to come back for my contract. If they'll have me back, he even said. But with this, man, I don't know, the wording. Can I read the message? Can I read the note?
Go ahead.
This was the agent. They want Ben back. See, he even said they want Ben back. And then for Rooney to say it, it's like, man, this just feels right. And he says, we'll contact me soon to address his cap situation. As we've shared since the season ended, we are happy to creatively adjust his contract to help them build the best team possible. A year ago, Ben wasn't sure if he could throw again, but he battled back to get 12 wins and the 8th division title of his career. They lost steam down the stretch, and that doesn't sit well for him, so the fire burns strong, and there's still plenty of gas in the tank. So, dude, I like that. I like it. I mean, definitely, I mean, the first words, they want Ben back, but then Rooney confirming that makes it different, in my opinion.
At the end of the day, the foundation is still the issue. I look at this no different than that house that's been sitting in the neighborhood for 20 years. It used to be painted blue. It started to fade. So we say, you know, we're going to paint it bright red. Everybody looked at it and said, wow, man, that looks good. I'm excited about this. This is a good thing. But the foundation was still cracked. We never fixed the foundation. So even though we've all publicly now said, hey, we want Ben back. Hey, we want Ben back. We want Ben back. That's the paint on it. So now the perspective and the, I guess the feeling surrounding the situation makes it feel a lot more optimistic, but the foundation is still cracked. We still haven't figured out the $41 million cap hit. We still haven't figured out what Ben is willing to come back to play for. So until we get to the bottom of that, I feel like the rest of this is just putting fluff on it. We're just trying to dress up something that still has major issues at the root of it. So that's why for me, I guess I didn't feel too strong about the comments yesterday one way or the other, because the issue is still there. It's no different. I mean, you could be in a relationship, right? And you're telling the chick, yeah, I want to be with you. I want to be with you. But you still got feelings for the girl around the corner. So it don't matter how much I tell you this. I know where my heart is. Well, that's what we got to figure out. How can we get this thing, the root of it, fixed? Because once we get that part fixed, then the rest we're going to be fine. But if we don't get the cap issue fixed, then all this is just, fluff. It really doesn't matter.
Why would Rooney say that, though? I mean, you were talking about he played it right.
From a negotiation standpoint, this is the thing. From a negotiation standpoint, you have to say that. I've been on the side of negotiation, man, where literally you're asking yourself, like, man, what are they thinking? Do they really want me back? Because when we had our preliminary talks, it didn't go the way that I thought it should go. So now I'm feeling some type of way. And the longer it goes without you directly talking to each other, the longer it goes without them publicly saying something, the more you start to, come up with your own conclusions in your mind. Well, maybe they don't want me. Maybe they don't think I'm good enough. Maybe they think I'm washed. Maybe I should go over here and show them, I can still get it done. But Mr. Rooney understands that. And that's why Mr. Rooney came out and said what he said and gave you a more definitive, we want him back. That's why I thought he did it that way. But at the end, he still put the main part in there of, we're going to look into the contract situation. To me, that's what it's been this whole offseason. We know that they want him back, but we also know that they already said numerous times they're not bringing him back with a $41 million cap hit. But we already talked about ad nauseum the details in which that makes it a lot more difficult. Now, something that the Steelers could do, they got a potential way they could get rid of this and it could work out. But they traditionally don't do it. You could essentially tear up this last year, right? Sign this new deal for him, however you want to do it, right? And have it a lot more incentive-based. Think like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did with Tom Brady, with AB, with Leonard Fournette. The reason you do it like that is because by making them incentive-based, they count just like bonuses. So you can space out the cap hits while Ben will still maintain his contract. He could still maintain 19 million or 20 million as long as it's incentive-based. Hey, you throw for 4,000 yards. You throw for 40 touchdowns. You win the division. You get to the AFC Championship game. They could do that, but historically, the Steelers don't. It's kind of like their rule of we don't negotiate during the season. That's their other rule. They don't do incentive contracts.
I wonder why.
I don't know. That's the thing we're all trying to figure out. I mean, even with Bud Dupree a year ago, right? We said, man, we understand y'all don't negotiate during season, but how much money could they have saved if not last year? Because obviously that was the year where Bud got hurt, but that first year before he got the franchise tag, when he was sitting at 5 sacks in a couple of games, they could have easily said, hey, look, Bud, man, we want to offer you this contract right now. He would have took it. But instead, they stuck to the rule of we don't negotiate during season.
What would have that been? 9 million, 10 million? What do you think would have got it done?
You think about this, right? If you come into him, right, and this is his first breakout season, the most sacks he had prior to that was 6, I think it was. And you're hitting him when he's at 5 sacks, like, look, man, we'll pay you 9 mil a year, 10 mil a year. He's going to be like, absolutely. Now, come on, man, that number's up 15, 16, maybe even higher, depending on what team he could land at. That's the difference. So you can see where the tradition, the Steelers way has worked for them, but you can also see where it's hurt them as well. So to me, I look at this scenario and I'm just like, at what point do we say the Steelers way probably isn't best right here? Now, we've seen them, make exceptions to the rule. Minkah Fitzpatrick, they traded a first-round pick during the season for this guy. Never happens. We saw them do it with Devin Bush. Traded up in the draft. Hadn't done that in decades. So it's like, man, we're seeing them become a little bit progressive. We're seeing them, starting to step out of their box. Now, this would be a large step, but you can just see how they have an option. If they want to go there, they can get that done. But we got to see if they're willing to do it or not, because they are very, set in their ways in terms of, we don't do this. We don't do that. We only operate this way. And they call it, the Steelers way. So that's my thing. It's like, we have an easier scenario, but if it doesn't work out, we're going to go back to having these tougher conversations and everybody having their fingers crossed one way or the other.
Do you think that's the common sense scenario then?
Well, put it like this. Since they've said definitively that they want him back, yes, that's the common sense area. If it was any other scenario where they hadn't definitively said they want him back, then the next common sense area would just be to cut your losses and start moving forward. But since they've already said they want him back, yes, I think that's the next best course of action. Because outside of that, we go back to what we've been talking about in terms of the disrespect that you're going to have when you ask Ben to get paid what Mitch Trubisky is getting paid. How does that sound? You know what I mean? Like, I don't care how much Mr. Rooney says he wants him back and how much Ben says he wants to come back and how much his agent says, yeah, he wants to come back. When he's looking at that check and he's like, man, I'm over here doing what I do. Even I guess, downgraded version of Ben is still a crazy upgrade over Mitch Trubisky. And the fact that they would even be paid in the same, conversation, it just is, it's crazy to me. It's crazy. So to me, I just think that that's probably going to be their best alternative, but that would, force them to have to do something that they traditionally just don't like to do. So, yeah, you might want to give them a call.
Extension wouldn't hurt either.
Yeah, but the thing is, Mr. Rooney, he was very particular in what he said. He didn't say that, hey, we want Ben to come back for the next couple of years. The agent said that. The agent said, we think Ben has, plenty left in the tank. Mr. Rooney just simply was talking about this year. And I think that's been very clear in the wording and in the tone of Mr. Rooney, both times that he's spoken, along with Kevin Colbert. They're looking at this as a one-year thing. So even if they go extension, obviously it has to be a multi-year extension. I don't think that they're willing to do that because I don't think any of us truly believe that Ben is going to retire after this year. Regardless of what happens, I don't think he's going to retire. I think that he's one of those guys that you're going to have to like, all right, Ben, we're locking you in this room. You're never coming back on this football. He's going to be one of those guys. So, and it's nothing wrong with that. But knowing that, I just don't think that the Steelers would, be as open to doing one of those extensions where, oh, yeah, man, well, that last year, this second year was more of a fluff thing, kind of what you talked about with Cam Hayward last time, right? I don't think that they're going to do that with Ben because you're going to just be in this situation again. And obviously the stakes are going to be a lot higher because of the number from a cap standpoint continuing to increase.